Checkmate, Chapter 2. The post had just arrived at Cass's. I wasn't thinking, and wouldn't have thought too much about it anyway, if Wenzel hadn't have snatched it out of my hands. I let it slide as though I'd not even noticed, but I was only bringing it in. What was the problem? He was on another job, so I was to stay with Cass whilst Larry and Judy went to school. Larry and Judy were her son and daughter. Cass talked about my birthday, which was nice, because it was more than Wenzel had done. I'd soon be 15, even though I'd be saying I was going to be 15 for about 8 months. "What do you want?" she asked me as we walked side by side towards the town centre. "Dunno," I said. And I didn't. "Why?" she asked, looking slightly up at me in her trademark white top with tight blue jeans. "Nobody ever cared to ask me before," I said honestly. "Name it," she said. "Okay, I want a CD player for my room. I want to listen to Lola," I told her. "Okay," she said with a sly grin. She didn't ask why Lola. "Look, I like you, but it doesn't mean you're Mum, okay? Sorry, I do like you," I said. She put her arms round me and it was nice. "I like you too," she said. "How did you meet Dad?" I asked her. "After he came out of hospital," she said, as if quoting from a book, and for the 100th time. "I'm not stupid," I said, walking. "Okay, our secret," she said. "Meaning?" I asked. "Wenzel doesn't know I told you," she said. "Good with me," I replied. "We met at the hospital. I was a nurse there. Before that doesn't matter. But I was a nurse there, and well, I still am actually." "So you work in a prison?" I asked her, as we crossed the quiet road just before the town centre. "A prison hospital," she corrected me and continued. "Wenzel, your dad, came in. He played up a bit, and he wouldn't talk to anyone, not for days. They'd all sit up playing games, the others, and he'd just sit there staring into space. I asked him to play Scrabble. He said he didn't know how, so I showed him. Then we became friends. When we'd have day release, so he'd have to go back to my place and watch a film. He missed you a lot. When he got out, we became a couple." She was already lying. I'd already put the pieces together. He was either with Mom and knocking Cass at the same time, or he did meet her in the hospital and used her vulnerability to help himself get out quicker. He remained quiet for a long time, because he was looking for the weaker staff. He needed to know who he could use. I knew Wenzel. I knew his mind. She was vulnerable, and that's a huge turn-on for a psychopath. She's easily manipulated. He would have started off making her feel special, by being the first or the only person he'd talk to, and then he'd progress to letting her know it was okay to be weak sometimes, probably share some stories about himself to show how well he relates to her tales. Perhaps he'd go as far as saying no therapist could help him, how he hasn't had an emotional connection in so long he values her real-life stories, anything to get the edge he needs. Then he'd make her feel strong, powerful, make her confident, and all of a sudden, it would be her idea to help him get out of there. The situation was ideal. She could never tell anyone about their relationship because she'd lose her job, and potentially the children. So once Wenzel was out, he really could do what he wanted with her. He'd think nothing of telling her, "You can't leave me, I'll tell everyone. I've got nothing to lose. You lose your job, the kids and me." He'd use her kindness against her and make her feel guilty. She was the one in a position of power after all, and so she should have known better. I suddenly felt very sorry for her. All of her happiness was fake. "What's your real name?" I asked her. "Nothing gets past you, does it?" she asked. "I get that a lot," I replied. We both laughed. "My name's Rachel. You can call me Ray, but around Wenzel it has to be Cass. He's quite protective," she said, although in my head I'd already heard paranoid. "Yeah, he is," I agreed. We had burger and chips that night, and I played Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club on repeat as I took ages washing up. I loved the music. I loved hearing children in the house again, where a woman had done the cooking that wasn't my mother, but she wasn't a bad lass. I would have been totally happy had Wenzel not been there. I got to thinking about Cass, and that if I could get her on side, I could find out more about Wenzel. Maybe she'd ditch him and then look after me, Caroline, Jodie, Jonathan, Larry and Judy. I know it's a lot, but I'd help out. I imagined them all playing together behind the field by our house. I imagined the children running into the garden asking me to come and play as I was washing up. I'd run out picking up a bin lid and a stick and we'd play fight. And then Wenzel appeared in the doorway, and somehow his image just swallowed the whole scene. Cass went to work, and Wenzel tried to embarrass me by putting barbed wire on the TV. For those who don't know, Barbed Wire is a film, I believe it's about a stripper, but I could be wrong, with Pamela Anderson in. The only thing that I actually remember about it is it had Pamela Anderson doing some sort of striptease in it, and I think the cover had her caked in barbed wire and leather. Not that as an adult I'm adverse to that, but it wasn't appropriate at the time. I didn't react when she stripped, or when he said, "Cor, I'd fuck that, wouldn't you?" Nor when he said, "You're no fucking fun, you know that." Larry and Judy were just being kids and making noise upstairs. Wenzel ran up and I heard a multitude of slaps rain down as the kids began screaming. I froze. It was as though I was back in Macclesfield, instantly against the wall being pushed. Then upstairs, he beat Caroline and me. He came down smiling. "Now don't make me come back up there." I could hear the sobbing. "What?" he said. I was in shock and I just stared ahead hopelessly. That didn't just happen, I told myself over and over. It didn't happen. I knew it had, but my brain couldn't compute it. The following day, Wenzel made jokes, fat jokes, about Judy. Cass didn't defend her. I felt sick. "Happy birthday, dear, Tracie too," came from the kitchen as Cass carried out a large box and Wenzel changed. Tracie too to Little Dick in the song. "Happy birthday, Little Dick. Happy birthday, Little Dick." It was my radio cassette player with a CD player, and I loved it. I hugged Cass and whispered, "Thank you." I took it back to Wenzel's and moved my bedside cabinet into the middle of the room. It could sit right there where I could play it whenever I wanted, from anywhere in the bedroom in just 2 steps. Cass was okay. I just had to find a way to stay away from Wenzel. He'd opened his post when we got back. "Darts?" he said, walking in and closing the door so as the board was visible. "Guess so," I said. "Come on, have a game with your old dad," he said, grabbing the darts from in front of Oscar's vivarium. Oscar was my pet snake. More about Oscar later, because you're not going to like that bit, but Oscar was my pet snake. He was, I think you know him as a red ribbon snake in America, but he was basically a garter snake, or what I know as a garter snake. He was absolutely harmless and tiny. He was awesome. Wenzel was being far too nice. He chucked his last dart, and as I bent down to write the score, he grabbed me and pinned me to the wall by my neck. I hit the wall hard and he held me there, feet off the ground. "If you fucking ever scarve off school again," he screamed, pulling his arm back into a fist. I was certain he'd swing. I didn't move. I met his eyes with mine. He didn't move. And I realised, despite all of my self-defence, all my concerns with the knife, and all my attempts at getting the family back, I just didn't care. He could kill me. I had nothing left. We kept eye contact for a long time. I'd like to say I saw something from the past, that I felt sorry for Joseph or Jade, or I saw Alan die again, or anything make me mad and fight. I'd accept fear or crying or hit him back, but no, I just felt nothing. "Do it," I murmured. My eyes hadn't left his. I wasn't angry. I just didn't care. My lips moved. I don't know if he didn't hear me, or if he let me go after a while. He was holding his punch to hit me, and then he dropped his arm to his side. He turned on his heel and walked out. I didn't know what to feel. I looked around. I need music, I thought, and turned the radio on. It was playing Eternal Flame by the Bangles. It was my mother's favourite song. I lost it completely. How dare I like Cass? How dare she love Wenzel? He killed his wife. How dare he hit me? How dare I betray Mum? Mum. Mum. The word was chanting in my head and in my heart, and I could feel it. Unfortunately, along with it and each word of the song, my anger got worse. Rising like a thermometer, I could feel the adrenaline. I took a step back and chopped the CD player with my hand, as hard as I could. I split the CD player lid clean in half along the top, and my little finger was bleeding badly, where the plastic had cut me. Wenzel opened my bedroom door. "What the hell are?" he began. "Get out! Get out! Get out!" I screamed, hitting the CD player again. Kicked the bedside cabinet over, sent it across the room before turning back to him in the doorway. "Get out!" I stood there, arms by my sides, bolt upright, tense as fuck and angrier than I'd ever been. "Fine, you ungrateful little shit," he said, slamming the front door behind him. In the morning, he said, "About last night. We've both been through a lot. Let's leave it at that." I meant what I said though. If you're not in school today, I won't be there when you come out. I ignored him. I'd spent the night thinking and looking at my broken CD player. Who was I kidding? I couldn't make this work. Cass wasn't Mum, and Wenzel wasn't my dad, no matter what the DNA test had said. I had no intention of going to school. My knives, my money, my change of clothes were already packed, and if he doesn't pick me up, then he really doesn't care. Fuck him. I told Keel as soon as I saw him. Fuck, he said, exhaling from a fag right there on the school grounds. Yeah, so I need a place to stay like yesterday. Yes, if he doesn't show up. What if he does? Keel asked, his black quiff dropping down ever so slightly in front of his face. Then I go home until Stoppy is ready for me. I'll live, I joked. Maybe, Keel said seriously. Or you could come to school. I'll join you, he offered. No, mate. Thanks, but no, I said normally. I need to know for sure if he gives a shit, I said, and my voice almost broke. What if, like, you go home and he... You know, Keel said, all carefully and concerned, almost hopping foot to foot. Kills me? I asked, my voice normal again. Yeah, he said, his voice cracking. Then he kills me, I replied, turned away to face the countryside. Checkmate, Chapter 3. Stoppy was a diamond. We were sat in his front room instead of at school. He was sat on some kind of chest in front of the window, moving some toys around. His enormous frame made my chest look like a matchbox. You can sleep on the sofa or on the floor in the bedroom, it's your choice, mate. Get food in when you can, other than that I don't give a shit, he said. Oh, and don't use my phone, he added, nodding his big bald head as far as it would reach on his broad shoulders. I remained quiet. Why would this guy help me? But fuck it, at least someone was willing to help. I'd take it. What did I have to lose? If I see you tonight, you move in. If I don't, let's say 2 weeks or I'll give it someone else, he said. I was cool with that, and waited around whilst Cap and Keel turned up. Then we all walked back to school to be picked up or sign in before heading home. Stoppy stayed at his ground floor flat. He was a good few years older than us. However, he had the mental age of a 16-year-old. It's really decent of him. Hey, thanks, man, I said, punching Keel's arm playfully. He's lonely, Cap answered for everyone. I waited 45 minutes after school time had finished when my mobile buzzed. It was Patrick Benson. Stay there, I'm on my way, he told me. Okay, mate, I replied flatly. I knew he wouldn't show, I thought, meaning Wenzel. Now I truly was alone. I was 15. As much as I was scared, I felt more free than I'd ever done before. A really weird feeling. It was time to make my own decisions. I ignored the red Honda Estate turning the corner and pulling up a few feet behind me. I'd checked nobody was in apart from Patrick as he went round the corner. My field of vision was now taken in the surrounding areas. Did A-Car pull up further down the road? Had he dropped someone off to watch me before he pulled up? My thoughts were everywhere. I trusted nobody, and at the same time, so what if I was to be grabbed? How much did I really care? I lit another smoke. Not much. Hey, Pat said, getting out of the vehicle. Sorry, he added. Wenzel called earlier and said he'd had enough. He's not coming. What happened, he asked. What else did he say? I asked him, realising for the first time, not only was I free, I could say and do as I pleased. Well, he said he couldn't handle you. You were flying off the handle. He was washing his hands of you. Pat was stood about 4 feet in front of me and trying to keep his body language as relaxed as possible. But I could tell he was nervous. Whatever had been said, Pat wasn't happy, but wasn't blaming me either. He looked like he'd just had a proper roasting. I see, I replied, turned my back to him as I took another lungful of nicotine. Wenzel had a way of hurting everyone he came into contact with, even those just doing their job. You okay, he asked, taking one step closer. Yeah, strangely I am, I said, putting my phone away and lighting a ready-made roll-up from the fag I'd had in my mouth. I now had 2 on the go. I looked at him and wondered, who'd give a shit anyway? Fuck it, right? I said. Want to sit? He asked, walking to the passenger side door and opening it, then walking round to the driver's side and getting in. He closed the driver's door once in. I got in but kept both feet on the floor outside. Without my tone, I looked like I was just enjoying the smoke after work with a colleague. I told Pat about Cass, but left out the bit about the kids. That's why I'm here. He refused to pick me up if I was truanting. You can't say anything. She'll lose the kids. I can't do that to her. I've been in care, it ain't pretty. He's an arse, but they aren't, I told him. A choice I didn't know then, but would impact a lot of people's lives through my lack of action. Okay, I get it. But right now we have to sort you out, he said. I waved my arms questioningly. We have a place ready for us, he began. Sorry, I'm going to reread that because I'm thinking about the repercussions of what actually came from that statement and that event just then. I know what happens later on. That's quite difficult to contend with because I know that Wenzel is completely remorseless for the things that he did to those children, and if he has a decency, then not to promote violence, but he should somebody should be picking the lead out of the ceiling in the next couple of hours. Let's put it that way. So I will reread that accurately. Okay, I get it, but right now we have to sort you out, he said. I waved my arms questioningly. We have a place ready for you, he began. No, I'm not going back to Brenda's so she can say how right she was. I stood up so I was out of the car and looked around quickly. It's not like that, he started again, getting out of the car. It's exactly like that. You don't live there, you don't see the shit. Sorry, Patrick, you've got a good heart, but fuck all. He wanted me dead, I said, turning to eyeball him for a couple of seconds longer than I should have, before turning away. What do you mean? He asked. I could feel the honesty in his voice. Figure of speech. Forget it. Sorry, I replied, as relaxed as I could manage. You can't just say that and then climb up, Tracie, he asked. Yes, I can. Tell me about what you were saying earlier, I asked him, changing the subject. Okay, have it your way. It's in Knutsford. They're a nice old couple, he started explaining as I'd requested. I've heard enough, I interrupted, walking away. Where are you going? His head shot up. I ignored him and carried on. Wait, he shouted. I lit another smoke as he followed a few steps behind. Knutsford? Like near Macclesfield, Knutsford? I started, my voice beginning to raise. Fuck off, Patrick. An old couple. Worked well with Tony and Pip, didn't it? I didn't bother looking back at him as I walked. You're right, I don't know shit, so tell me. Let me help you, he tried. I feel so sorry for this guy. This guy was actually a decent bloke trying to help, you know? He might have had his faults, but he was a decent bloke trying to help. I turned to face him and stepped forwards. All I can say about him is Brenda was right, and then some. I fucked up, okay? There, now you have it. I turned away and started jogging. Don't make it worse by running, he said, catching up with me in the car. Pat, if I don't pick you up, I have to tell the police you ran away. Then they will come bring you to me. Then what, he said. I kept running. They'll have to find me first, I thought. I ran for maybe 5 minutes, but my heart wasn't in it. I turned to Patrick, who was sat in the car looking paler than usual as I jogged alongside. I have a place with a mate, I told him, stopping to make a roll-up. Where? We need to check it's safe, he said. Seriously? I asked, full of sarcasm. Okay, you win, but call me, okay? He asked. I nodded, and my respect for him grew. He tried. Okay, it was his job, but he tried. I went to Stoppy's, checking behind me the entire way to make sure I hadn't been followed. I'd found out years later he'd actually followed me to Stoppy's and noted the address down. How he'd done it to this day I don't know, but the address was in my social services records. And you know what? If you ever listen to this, thank you. Thank you for trying to look out for me, because it felt like you were the only guy at the time that was, and I didn't trust anybody. So cheers, fella, respect for that. You might not realise it, but I remembered every detail. His daughter was doing guitar lessons and I hope she made it. You know, good luck, fella. There was a weights bench in Stoppy's bedroom at the end of a huge double divan bed. Stoppy filled most of it. He'd had a single bed put in at the opposing end of the room, which I don't remember being there last time. The floor, although littered with guy, gun and circus magazines, had a thick carpet and felt safer than the single bed. I wasn't worried about Stoppy. He seemed harmless enough. I just had the impression that if someone did come in looking for me, and they had intentions of kicking off, they would check the bed first. I didn't want to be that guy. I was much happier with the floor. I knew it wasn't forever, but it was warm, and more importantly I trusted the guy, so it felt safe as I could allow myself to feel. The living room had a battered sofa with a cheap dartboard over the gas fire, a leather chair by a huge single-pane window on the opposite wall. The floor there was brushed, not hoovered. "You okay, mate? Good to see you," Stoppy had said, taking up the entire door frame as I'd knocked on. I nodded and walked in. It was the first time I'd been in without being a guest. I immediately felt at home. I had Cap's word. That was good enough for me. "You look tired," Stoppy said. "I'm right. Thanks for this, man. I'll square it with you one day." "I've got fuck all at the moment," I replied. "Relax. Get some sleep," he said. "Nah, not yet, man. My brain's fried." "My brain is fried," I said, feeling the shock of recent events start to kick in. "Dots?" he asked, picking up the 3 laying on the council's gas fire. "Hell yeah," I replied. We played a few games of killer, where you hit the other guy's number, taking lives off him. Some nights I slept on the sofa, most nights on the floor in his room. I washed, but I never took a bath the whole time. It felt like I was taking the piss if I did. I ate very little by choice. I couldn't pay my way, so I took only what I needed to survive. I kept well hidden, only going to Keel's, Cap's and Stoppy's houses. I saw them after school and sometimes on lunch breaks. I knew social services would be looking for me. I knew the police would too. I got to know Keel's family a little better during this time. It was at his house with his little sister Kathy, Stoppy, Keel, Cap and Keel's sister, whose name I can't remember, when Stoppy asked me if I wanted anything from the chip shop. Oh God. I'd replied I wasn't hungry, when in fact I was starving. He brought me back a battered sausage. I felt bad, but I wolfed it down. "Have a chip," he said, holding the pack out to me. "I'm okay, thanks, mate. You've done enough," I said, sat like a lemon on the edge of Cap's sofa, just wanting the world to swallow me up. "Come on, for fuck's sake, have a chip," Stoppy said, leaning against the wall and holding the packet out to me. I got up and took a chip. I actually wasn't being sarcastic. I was well into the habit of Wenzel's ways, and my brain did what it thought was safest. By taking a chip, I was abiding by the rules. And though it was probably safe to take more, I wasn't risking the bullshit for being a taker off my friend. In my head, that chip was all important for many reasons. For Stoppy, it was just a bag of chips. "Take a handful, man," he said, leaning forwards. By now, people were tittering and I lost it. "What's fucking wrong with you?" I snapped. Pushed him in the chest. I sent chips everywhere. "I don't want a fucking chip. I'm fine." "Okay, man, chill. No biggie," Stoppy said, palms towards me, head high. "No biggie. You got no fucking idea," I screamed into his face and walked out. I looked around to see the others looking at me. I'd fucked up again and I knew it. So did they. "Go and talk to him, man. He'll get it," Keel said softly. "No, you go. If I go, he'll get defensive and I'll hit him, or I'll apologise and he'll think it's just for somewhere to stay. Either way, I fucked up. It's not his fault." I said. I was immediately calm. "Shit!" I swore, kicking the remaining chips through the back door. Stoppy returned about an hour later with Keel and Cap in tow. Stoppy was second through the door behind Keel. I stood up, arms wide, and with my low palms towards him. "Want a chip?" he said, smiling at me. I creased up. "Yeah, man, give me your chips," I said, hugging him. I had to tip my toe to reach around his shoulders, and my hands were a long way from meeting behind him. He was huge. Little did I know, not part of the book here obviously, little did I know I had people around me at that time that were willing to care. You know, his name wasn't Cap and Keel. It was Kev and Carl. And Kev's mum looked out for me. Kev looked out for me. And Carl looked after me. And Stoppy was actually called Stotty. And he looked out for me. And there's no identifiers in there because they're first names and because all this actually happened. Well, all of it actually happened. Good people. Good people. So, where was I? Little Kathy was dancing to Barbie Girl by Aqua with Keel's sister. I relaxed watching them dance together as Keel tapped his fingers on a beer can with his legs slung across the sofa, and Cap tapped his foot in the middle of the room. Cap started singing, excuse me, and I slung my head back laughing simultaneously, kicking my can across the floor into his rug. "Shit, sorry mate." I jumped up to rescue it as Cap appeared with a rag and started cleaning. Not the first time someone else has cleaned up my mess, I thought, somberly. Kelly and Jan went to the shop while us boys talked about girls and our dick sizes. Cap got a major headache out of nowhere and explained he was a haemophiliac. I had no idea what that was until he explained. But if he got cut, he'd bleed more than most of his cuts. He'd bleed more than most people, and his cuts don't heal like normal persons. He showed me how to calm his headaches with a forehead massage. I did that for him until he was better, and it felt good to be helping someone for a change until Keel's sister ran into the living room in tears, and Kathy followed. She'd obviously been crying. "What's up?" Keel asked. "I got followed from the shop. This lad hit Kathy. We ran off. He's outside," she said, panting. "I'll check it out," Keel said calmly. "No," I replied, calm and loud. "Keel, take care of your sister. Cap, look after yours." I headed through the front door. "Need me," Stubbs said, seeing me bolt out the door past the hall. I saw his chips hit the floor as he tried to raise his huge body from sitting to standing. I was in the garden before he'd stood up. I looked to my right as the garden went straight out onto a pathway. There was nobody there. I looked left, which was also empty but a shorter path. I heard rustling to my far left and took off at a sprint. There was a small lad stood eating chips in the middle of the path of grass. I did some stupid shit. "Oi, mate," I shouted as I reached him from the side. He turned just as I socked him in the face. How he stayed standing I don't know, but he did. "What the?" He got out before I jabbed and crossed him hard. For anyone not knowing what that means, it means I hit him with my left hand, then I hit him with my right. This time he went down. "Like hitting girls, do you? Get up," I growled, dragging him upwards by his hair. "Not me, man, not me," he said, holding his chips to his chest. A huge paw landed on my shoulder. As Stoppy said, "Not him, mate," pointing to Kathy, stood watching me by the hedge. "Who? Where'd he go?" I asked the boy. "I don't know, but you're dead. My brother will kill you," he said, standing up straight. He wasn't scared at all. I was really fucking impressed. But I'd also been threatened again, and I couldn't let that go. "Go and get him," I said, pointing past him. "You don't want to do that, mate," Keel said from about 8 feet away. "Why not?" I asked, not taking my eyes off the short lad. "It's Stubbo. Remember the guy who whacked Keechy and the blonde?" Keel said. "Yeah, dickhead, I'm Stubbo's brother. You're dead," he said again, this time leaning his head back to spit on me. Fuck it. I was dead anyway if Wenzel got hold of me, or if the police took me back to him. Either way I was fucked. I grabbed Chipboy by the shirt and half lifted, half dragged him 4 feet into the middle of the patch of grass. "Now listen, you little shit. I'm not scared of you or your pissant brother. Tell him to come armed, because if he hits any of these..." I gestured with my free hand and slapped him with my other hand hard. He started crying. "I'll cut his fucking head off, so he better kill me. You got it?" He nodded like his life depended on it. I let him go, and a split second later there was a pile of chips where he previously stood. "You don't fuck about, do you?" Stoppy asked. It was the first time he'd seen me hit anyone. "No, mate, but it's all good, because now he's either got to tell his brother, who gets angry and does something stupid, or he's too scared to tell him. Either way, it's the best result I could have got after whacking him. People fight worse when they're pissed off. They don't think. It's all anger." Stoppy looked confused and impressed at the same time. Keel was rolling a smoke. "No, mate, that was stupid. He tells Stubble and he will come for you. He won't screw around. How is that a result?" He was genuinely concerned about my future. I wasn't. "Because he won't be looking for her," I said, pointing straight at Kathy. Keel took a few seconds for it to sink in, then added, "Yeah, well, it was still dumb, man." I'd gone to throw my empty can in the bin in the kitchen when Kathy followed me. She was tiny in both height and width. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I had my back to her and made out to be washing my hands in the sink. "Anything, but you may not like the answer," I told her as I looked into the night sky. "Why did you protect me?" she asked innocently, only looking to know the truth. I was 15. She was a year or two younger. "Cap and your mum have been good to me. I can't give them money, but this I can do," I replied. "People say things. Can I ask you a question?" "You don't have to answer, it's just, they say you're crazy and I don't think you are," she said. I didn't turn around, but I didn't make out I was washing my hands anymore either. I just stood there. "I act crazy when I need to," I said honestly. "What's the question?" I asked, turning around to face her. But I was leaning against the sink. She looked so vulnerable. "What happened to your mum?" "Are you sure you want to know?" I replied, looking through her. "Sorry. Are you sure you want to know?" I replied, looking through her eyes, but knowing in a few short seconds they would be registering pain, and her opinion of me would be altered forever. "Yeah, if you want to tell me," she said. "My father killed her, stabbed her to death," I said, as though reciting the day's weather. The moment I'd finished the word death, her face exploded into tears and she ran out of the kitchen. I followed slowly. "What happened?" Keel said, appearing at the door the instant Kathy had left. I threw my hands up. I never touched her, man. She asked about my mum. I told her and she ran off crying. Fuck, Keel said, knowing something I didn't. I left with Stoppy and headed over to his place. He sat on the sofa, me on the chair leaning on my arms. I didn't touch her, man, I said. I know, she's young, she'll cry at anything, Stoppy told me. Did I do wrong telling her? She asked. Should I have lied? I asked him. You did nothing wrong, mate, he told me rather than answered. Guys, man, I can do that shit like nothing all day. I don't like it, I don't want to, but I can. It's where I'm from, it's what I've seen, I get it and I know how it works. I hate it, but I can do it all fucking day. It's in my blood. It may even be a part of Wenzel, but I have never ever hit a bird, never. That's it, she's scared of me, isn't she? She thinks I'd hurt her, like my dad killed my mum. Well fuck, he killed her. She doesn't think I'd... I broke down sobbing. It was too much. I couldn't control it. My arms bobbed up and down and I caught my breath repeatedly in my chest. The tears burnt my face so much it felt permanent. Stoppy tried to put his arm around me. Don't touch me! Don't touch me! I screamed, staring at him as my head boiled with anger and pain. At that moment I'd have given anything to beat the Wenzel out of me via whoever was closest. Shit, dude, relax, mate. Seriously, just relax. I wasn't moving. I was just staring at him as though my body went through its process of removing shit from my system and letting me know in a big way it was doing it. I was so angry. I hated myself for it, which just fueled the anger even more. I'll kill him. I hate him. I'll kill him. I've got nothing. I lost the lot. Jonathan, Jodie, Caroline, Wenzel, Mom, Cass, Pat, Alan. Now my friends are scared of me? I asked. My tone was stone cold. I grabbed the darts from the table and launched all three at the board at once as hard as I could as the living room door opened. Shit! I screamed as they landed a foot northwest of Kathy's head. She looked at me tear-drenched and angry, then scarpered. Great, man, just fucking great, I said to Stoppy. Keel came in where Kathy would have been if she'd stayed. She came to apologise for upsetting you, he said and walked out. Everything I touched turned to shit. I slept on the floor that night in Stoppy's room next to the weight bench. Halfway through the night I woke up half asleep. Stoppy was sat on the edge of the bed and a figure was stood over him. I reached for a metal weights bar thinking it was so dark the intruder wouldn't be able to see me, and half thinking I was having maybe another bad dream when the figure said, Stay down, lad. I know who you are. I definitely wasn't dreaming. My hand wrapped around the bar. I ignored the cold. Police? I thought. How many? It's okay. It's Keel's dad. Don't, Stoppy said with a voice trembling in fear. I couldn't whack Keel's dad. Besides, what the fuck's he doing here? I'd never met Keel's dad. I figured I must be dreaming and went back to sleep. In the morning, Stoppy told me Keel's dad had popped round and everything I'd said had happened had. He filled in the blanks for me. Apparently he found out Keel had been truanting, so he came round to give Stoppy a slap and to tell him not to allow Keel in anymore. I apologised for not doing anything but told him I couldn't drop Keel's dad, that it wasn't right. Keel turned up, which was unusual as since his dad's visit he may have truanted but not at Stoppy's. You okay? Stoppy asked Keel. Keel ignored him and turned to me. You got to leave, mate. Police have been at school looking for you. I'm sorry, I had to tell them something, so I told him I saw you with Louise last week. He looked really sad. No worries, mate. You did the right thing. Thanks for letting me know, guys, I said. Turned to face both of them. I've got to disappear. It's been great, but they probably followed Keel. I knew it would happen. Patrick had tried getting me back into care once again. I ignored his request. I got £15 from him to live on. I gave 10 of it straight to Stoppy. He'd obviously called the cops. I was halfway through the window when Stoppy grabbed my arm and I looked at him. Need anything? He asked. Got matches, a torch, bin bags, I said, reeling off my survival height list from Scouts. Sorry, dude, no torch, he said, handing me a box of Swan matches and a half roll of bin bags. Hey. Thanks, I said, making sure to look both of them in the eye. Then I turned and hopped out of the kitchen window. Okay, one more. Chapter 4. Checkmate. I kept low to the fence. As soon as I'd landed I was wearing 2 sets of clothing, a tracksuit and beneath them my jeans. I never wore tracksuits, so I made sure I had the full kit on with a jumper beneath. I also had my school rucksack. I couldn't change how that looked, but I figured I'd seen it. I'd leg it and ditch the top layer of clothes and keep going. Thank fuck for all those military books I'd read at the library. I walked slowly, not because I wanted to. I felt like running, but because I had to. A running lad would be obvious. The eye is drawn to it and is always suspicious. I walked a big square 2 roads around the school so as not to pass it. I told Stoppy and Keela I had a place in Petterpool that I'd go to if this happened. I described it to them in depth, and it was where I wanted to be, as it was beautiful. I knew the area well enough to walk around blindfolded, so the lie came easily. If they spoke at all, then that's where the police would be headed. Add to that, Tony had been there once before, so he could show them exactly where to go. Sure, they'd look, I asked myself. I couldn't go to Louise's or Brenda's. Nigel would grass me up in a second, and Bacon Egg was too scared of his dad to help. Where is the last place I should go? And it hit me like a bad smell. Chester. I'm scared of Wenzel. If Patrick told the police I'd said Wenzel wants me dead, there's no way they would be looking for me in Chester. I walked to Chester, hiding in the woodland in the day and hiking the roads at night, where I'd put the shell suit in my bag so I didn't reflect any light. I could do the trip in a day, but I was in no hurry. I got as far as the Tarvin sign and decided to see Anne and Mark. Their mum's words rang out in my head from the tower reading, "You'll not see us again," but I ignored it. I'd been gone what? A year? Maybe a little over? I stood on my old road, Hocknell Avenue, a good 10 minutes pondering the what-ifs. What if I brought the police to their door? What if they hate me? What if they moved? Fuck it, I'd not found out stood there like a twat drawing attention to myself. I walked off around the corner to Mark and Anne's house. It looked the same but different somehow. Something had changed. I'd got the route right. It wasn't far from Tony and Pip's place. Pip's place. How I'd love to have Geordie with me right now. Yeah, what are you going to feed him, Norbert? You can't even feed yourself. Wenzel's voice echoed around my head. He had a point. What use was I to Mark or Anne? Then my voice. Did you come here for nothing? I approached the door and knocked. A thin black gentleman answered. Yes? Sorry, I'm looking for Mark and Anne, I asked. Wrong address, I'm afraid, he said. No, it's not. I used to visit a lot. They're good friends, and I'm trying to find them, I added. Then he said something that blew me away. I have lived here 15 years, lad. It's not this house, I can assure you. I stepped back. Oh, okay, thanks, I said, still walking backwards, looking at the house. I retraced my steps to Pip House, and then back to where Anne and Mark should have lived. I then tried 2 roads before and after, in case I'd made a wrong turning. The only house similar was the one with the black man in it. They've moved, I said to myself, feeling a large hit. Wales, I sighed, recalling the conversation. 15 years? I questioned. He has to be lying. Either way, I couldn't find it anywhere. I spent over an hour in the field I used to walk Georgie in, and then realised Pip or Tony may walk him and see me, so I headed off to Chester. I walked the streets that day, slept up against the Roman walls with a tree next to it. There was a bridge close by, but I didn't want to go underneath it in case homeless people had the same idea. I figured my spot was enough shelter for one person, and with the bridge they would be more tempted to group there than around the tree. Nobody turned up that night, but I watched numerous late-night dog walkers pass me. I stayed the following night too, having spent the day walking the only roads I knew, the Roman ones, to and from my old workplace. Never was close enough to be seen. Memories were starting to get to me though. I could see myself walking into the hairdressers I used to go in with Wenzel. I hated him and didn't want to be that lad, but I wanted to know who I was. How I could be there one minute and here the next. Why here felt so good but so difficult on my feet and body through hunger. Or how that life with him could be so bad, and yet I could have a bath or get a sandwich. I kicked myself for thinking about food. I told myself earlier I didn't need it. I walked down the river and then back towards the Roman walls. I kept back at my tree and had to move around it every time a drunk group approached. I never made the connection that certain days meant more party goers. I was too young to understand, or perhaps I just wasn't educated enough. All I knew was my tree was no longer safe, and my feet hurt, so running was pretty much out of the question. Walking was getting troublesome. I'd not removed my shoes since leaving Wenzel's. I woke up and some coins had been placed beside me. I took them at first, not realising someone had given them willingly and thinking they'd perhaps fallen out of someone's pocket. Then I realised they thought I was a homeless person and donated some money. I realised just how low I'd become. I headed back to the town centre. Somehow the sunshine had made me feel better. I didn't care how people saw me anymore. I saw a tall lad with short golden hair who'd been seen walking with Ghost before. He was in a group sat on the wall out of the view of the rest of the town centre. The shoppers didn't seem to notice 6 lads sat there on the wall. I realised if I didn't know their faces thanks to Ghost, I'd know they were homeless either. "Excuse me mate, seen Ghost?" I asked him. "Who?" he said, looking round like I would if someone approached me. I let him look and stayed in front of him quietly. "Who?" he said again gently. I didn't want him to think I was tipping anyone off, so I kept my arms still and eyes on him. Ghost, a little smaller than me, dark eyes, white, carries a green sleeping bag, I said. No, don't know her. Got a smoke, he asked, lying. His little chubby friend jumped down off the wall. What's up? I know her. She says you're cool, he said. Sorry, no smokes, mate. Looks like I'm homeless. I need to speak to her, I told Chunky. No problem, take this, he said, handing me an open pouch of tobacco. No, mate, no cash, I said, handing it straight back. If I took it, I'd owe him something. It's cool, friend of Ghost, a friend of ours, right, lads? They nodded and grunted, and for some reason reminded me of dim lights on a Christmas tree fading in and out of view. The fat lad gave me directions to a doss house he said Ghost was staying at. He asked if I wanted him to show me. I declined. I knew Ghost, but not them. They seemed genuine enough, but why take the chance? If Ghost was at a doss house and knew this, many people they were involved in, how does a homeless guy just whip out 50 grams of tobacco and give it away? This wasn't Macclesfield. The homeless were polite and decent, but I didn't know what else they could do. I didn't trust it, and I was hurting anyway. It was time to head back to Stoppies. I'd be gone for around 4 or 5 days, and it felt like forever. It was weird being back in Winsford. Everyone had a home, or a family except me. The family thing I was used to, and I loved camping, but not whilst I had to constantly look over my shoulder. I needed a bath, needed food and drink, but mostly I needed socks. My feet really hurt, and my socks were so hard it was unreal. I didn't pack spares when leaving Wenzel's. My scout leader entered my head, protect your feet. I envisioned myself in an 8-man tent, my bare feet stuck out of the bottom, the breeze heavenly on them. In reality I was stood at over square and Keel was in front of me. I'd not even seen him approach. You okay, mate? What are you doing now? He said, looking concerned. Apparently I'd been speaking to him. Stoppy will take you in, mate, but it's a matter of time before the police find you. You could stay with me or Cap, but I don't think my parents would do it whilst the police are involved, mate. Sorry, he continued. I just stood there. I mean, I did care, and he was right. I did appreciate everything he was saying, but I was out of it. My priorities were all messed up. I just wanted some socks. To have clean socks for an hour, or somewhere safe to walk around in bare feet. I'd have done anything. I need socks, I said, pulling my shoes off very slowly and delicately. I can get you socks, man, he said, touching my arm. No, mate, not what I meant. Let me finish. I need socks. I'm going back to care. My shoe flipped off, and it hurt, and it stank. I don't mind. I can get you socks, he said, squeezing my arm a little. No, man. I have to do this. But it has to be on my terms. Not theirs, I said, meeting his eyes with mine. What do you need? He said immediately. Looking back. God. In 6 years, my eldest is going to be the age I was then. 15. 14, 15. And I still see her as a child that needs to be taken care of. That's my little girl. To think what I was doing at that age. And this other lad was my age, he was in my year and he looked almost like me. We got confused for each other in school all the time. He was an absolute legend. He was an absolute legend. I told him he dug out some change. I gave him off the tobacco in exchange. I chunked some coins in the slot. Patrick Benson, please, I said. He wasn't happy, but he did as I asked. He pulled up his red Honda less than an hour later without police and closed the car door. I had Keel stood in plain sight on the road to check the car was empty, and there was only a ginger guy knocking around. I was behind a hedge in someone's garden on the other side of the road. If they grabbed Keel, he'd just say he was on his way to Caps and stop for a ciggy. The last he'd heard, I was in Chester. Keel gave the thumbs up and I came out of my hiding hedge. I walked over to Patrick as straight a line as I could manage. I didn't want him seeing I was in pain. Hi, thanks for coming, I said, lighting up a smoke. Well, you're here now, get in. I've been waiting ages, he said. No, you've been here 5 minutes. We walk here. We agree on what's happening with me and where I'm going, or I walk, I said, faking confidence badly. You're hurt, he said, seeing my face curl up as I took a step backwards. I'm fine, I said, exhaling. Okay, what can I do for you? We do care, you know. We've been worried. Everyone has, he says. Everyone? I asked sarcastically. You? Your job? Caroline? Jonathan? Jody? They don't know I exist. Brenda? Oh, please. I'm not here to argue. Please sit down, he said, opening the car door. No way, so you can slam the door and drive off, I said. Tracie, I don't know who you think I am, but I'm here to help. I'm not your father, he said. Kind of hit me, but I wasn't sure how to feel about it. He was right. I was treating every male as though they were my father, but I also didn't know how a real father was supposed to be. I just knew my father wasn't it. Yeah, well, neither is he, I replied. I'm not going back to Brenda's, I said. Patrick tried to talk numerous times, but I didn't let him finish. I want my own room, to be left alone, no parents, no bullshit, no call me mom crap. I'm not going to bed at 8 p.m. I've seen more than most adults I know. I can look after myself. I'm in when I want, I'm out when I want. No ties, no family. I'll clean, I'll do my own washing, I eat in my room. No family meals. Oh, and I smoke. Like it or not, I'm a smoker. I smoke. I said, taking a huge drag of my roll up, because I'd said the word family a few times. Each time it was like putting a nail into my chest. If I can get you somewhere this short notice, will you just go until I find somewhere better? Patrick asked me carefully. I stood up and started walking. No, call me when you have a place. He grabbed my arm and I turned as he let go. He'd immediately stepped back. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was just trying to get my attention. Work with me. Let me help you. Let me get you some calls now and we'll see what we can do. I could see from his face he meant it. Whether it was job's sake or mine, I didn't know. No police, I said. If I see police, I'll get in the car and you can take me to care and then I'll leave and you will never see me again. Okay, no police, I promise, he said, heading to the car. Keel was brilliant. Whenever he saw someone, he coughed. He waited for me all the while Patrick made his calls. Okay, we have a place in Knutsford for you, he started. No, Mac, I asked. Yes, but you don't have to see anyone from Mac. They're an older couple who agree you have your own room and can come and go as long as you like, as long as you're home by 10 p.m. They said you'll only have to ever call them Stephanie and George, okay? I felt sad. If it was as nice as that, I'd love it. I felt hollow inside. Everyone else wanted the games console or a car, and I just wanted a fucking bath. Secretly I wanted a family, but that dream was dead. And whenever it did rear its ugly head, I told it straight. They're gone, you're not worth it, you hurt them. I stood up on the opposite side of the road to Keel with my social worker 4 paces away from me, and I had nowhere in between to head to. What about the smokes? I asked, lighting another. I can't fix everything, Tracie. What are your choices right now? He said. I shot him a look and he shut up, but he did have a point. He knew as well as I did, pushed me too far and I was off. I'd die cold or long before I'd be controlled again. I'll be in the car, he said. I thanked Keel and hugged him, and there I got in beside Patrick. If it's shit, I'm off, I said gingerly, placing my foot on the car's floor. It hurt. That's the end of chapter 4. And ironically, I think it's really, really useful that I've written these, not just because of other people, but because I can then go back and look at them. How many issues did I have as a child at that point, 15 years old, trusting people? I didn't trust the police. My God, no change there. I didn't trust my social worker. That social worker was a diamond. He had got me a different social worker and several other things throughout the story that you'll discover for yourself. But that social worker was an absolute diamond. He did everything he was supposed to do to assist me. And you know what? Up until about the age of 25, I hated that bloke. And I blamed the social services for what happened with my family. It wasn't the social services, it was my father. The social services didn't necessarily do everything perfectly, but they didn't turn my life upside down. They fed me, they clothed me, they housed me. They did what they were supposed to do. And in this guy's case, more so. And there was another guy, I don't know what I've called him in the book, but I know he's in the acknowledgements as the only social worker I ever trusted. And he was also awesome. Respect to those guys. So like anything, there's 2 types of people out there. Some who are good and some who aren't. This guy was really, really good. Thank you very much. Respect for that. I'm going to end here. We'll do chapter 5 another day. I'm Tracie Daily. Take care of yourselves and each other.